Shalom. Peace be unto you. To my family out there, my Hebrew family, and also all you people who came to the gospel of Christ and who followed Elohim and who obey his word. Notice something about the whole rapture thing that was that all the hype that was happening around this whole rapture thing that was supposed to happen on the 17th, which is today. But it's crazy how people are so spiritually blinded, and so they blindly following these these false teachings from these false teachers. And these things are all over scriptures. You can clearly see that there are many deceptive spirits out there, people that will come and proclaim things, proclaim that, hey, Christ will return on this day, on that hour. It's all Bible. It's the scriptures already foretold, and in the last days, people would, not even just in these last days, but that's something that has been happening multiple times during those past 200 years. Even in the mid 1800s, people were still saying that Christ will return at that date, at that time. The most recent being the September 2017 false teachers that were saying that there would be a so-called secret rapture of the church back in 2017. It's crazy how people are so blinded and don't go to scriptures to see the truth in their own eyes. Today, with just a couple of Bible verses and also going into the Apocrypha from some more extra forbidden knowledge that the Christian church took out of the Bible for their agenda, of course. So let me start first with the book of Jeremiah, chapter 9, verse 6. You live in the midst of deception, and their deceit. They refuse to acknowledge me, declares Elohim. So clearly, all those so-called teachers that are out there proclaiming that Christ will return on this day and that date, will return to rapture, to beam the Christian church away before the tribulation starts and all that. All this Hollywood Christian doctrines that actually dates back all the way to the early 1800s. So anyways, even the prophet Jeremiah told that, of course, there are deceptive spirits everywhere. We shouldn't follow them. Their heart are deceitful above all. Things are beyond cure. Who can understand? So it is clear that our mission as believers, and as also the scattered sheep of Israel, is to be faithful to God and not to follow doctrines of men, but to obey the Most High. No matter what's about to take place in this world, we will be faithful to God. Persecution, this so-called persecution of the Christian church, is just a myth, because aside from the Zionists who currently call themselves people of God and who run this world, aside from the Zionists who run this world, who else controls this world? Who is the figure that runs this world, has a big impact on religion, and that everyone blindly views as God? The Pope. So, the Pope, which is the supreme leader of the Christian church globally, has that power. And this so-called tribulation and persecution of the church is just part of their doctrine, of their fake, secret rapture doctrine. The Christian church itself is on top of this world, and they rule everything, even sometimes above the government. Even if the Zionists and the governments and the Christian church are three separate entities that rule this world, they're all and on the same plan, basically. So the Christian church had multiple agendas throughout the centuries. This so-called, secret rapture church is not scriptural, and I repeat, it's not scriptural for multiple reasons. The Bible never talks about a tribulation of they beamed away, before tribulation from doctrine. It's not in scriptures. You can look There are no Bible scriptures that talks about a secret rapture of the Christian church, and the Christian church being beamed away out of the earth, and and once they're beamed away, then there will come a 7-year tribulation of those. And that's not that's just part of men doctrines that has been put in place by these Gentiles, which are those same Gentiles who, when they destroyed Jerusalem in 17 AD, changed the images. They took away everything out of the temple. And when the true Hebrews, those that couldn't fight the Romans, fled to Africa, those true, biblical Hebrews left the land and are until today, up until to this day, we still haven't returned to the land. Because, the scriptures plainly says that the Most High God himself will bring his people back to the land when he returns. And it's just easy to see how, those deceptive spirits have been using religion as a tool. They've been using religion as a tool, to fool the world. And since people don't go to scriptures to read them for themselves, it's easy for them to be fooled. Let me just read a. Let me go to the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha is actually a very interesting book. It's actually what they call the lost books of the Bible. It's something that really that's something that people should read. I'm really going to encourage people to go to read these books, because they contain so much information about what's really going to happen. And we know that the Christian church always had the agenda to create their own doctrines. So let me read the second book of Esdras, chapter 13, verse 22 to 26. Listen carefully. Where thou hast spoken, and them that are left behind. This is the interpretation. Notice the word left behind. This is going to be very important. Okay? He that shall endure peril. He that shall beam the way. Nope. He that shall be secretly raptured. Nope. He that shall endure the peril of in that time hath kept himself. Okay? They that be falling into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. Know this therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. Let me read this again. Know this therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. Okay? This is the meaning of the vision whereof thou sawest, and a man coming up from the midst of the sea. The same is he whom God the highest have kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creatures or his people. Okay, the same thing. It's an example. And he shall order them that are left behind. Okay? So, reading these couple of verses, you're asking yourself, hold on a second. That's not talking about the secret rapture. That's not about the rapture of the Christian church. And these Bible verses of the Apocrypha are actually telling you that those that are going to be left behind are actually those that will be enduring tribulation, meaning that there will be no secret rapture. Even when you go to read the Bible, the canon Bible that we all read, nothing talks about a secret rapture of the Christian church. Some people may take the example. One of their favorite Bible verses that they like to take is that he cometh as a thief in the night. They like to be cherry picking a couple of verses to try to prove their so-called, secret rapture doctrine. So it's crazy how people don't have spiritual discernment. All eyes shall see. Okay? Meaning that in the midst of tribulation, during the world will be going through a tribulation that's just going to start intensifying. People are going to be so despaired that most people who don't follow God aren't going to know when Christ will return. Many will keep denying the return of Christ. But once we're going to be enduring this persecution, us, the lost sheep of Israel, that are going to start awakening. And through power, we'll be start awakening. And the Gentiles who serve Christ will see that truth. And they will join in. And we will all be on the one accord through the Spirit, serving the Most High in these last days. You know, there's a very spiritual movement that's about to take place in this world right now, such as this world has never seen before. This spiritual movement is going to start through the awakening of the dispersed Judah, which means the dispersed sheep of Israel, which the Christian church doesn't want to talk about. They rather just talk about, hey, the rapture of the Christian church. But then they'll tell you about the awakening. Like I said, in the book of Baruch, the second book, which is another book of the Apocrypha that the Christian church took out of the Bible, simply because of what? Well, they had an agenda, not only to hide how the true rapture will happen, and those that will be left behind are actually those that are going to be saved, and to hide also this awakening. Let me go to the book of Baruch. It's a very, it's very powerful. Chapter 2, 30 to 35. So this is a prophecy that talks about the awakening of the dispersed sheep of Israel. And I can understand why this book, I now know actually why this book have been taken off the Bible, because if the Christian church left that book in the Bible, it would have made a lot of controversy, and it would have been going directly against their doctrines, their pagan doctrines that they have been putting in place for centuries. For I knew that they would, verse 30, for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. Okay? It's very important to understand these Bible prophecies. To understand the return of Christ, you have to know the identity of God's true people. We know that through the body of Christ, Gentiles can become children of God. We know that. But, originally God always had a group of people. Even if Gentiles can receive salvation as well. But, God always had a seed. The same way the devil has a seed in this world. The devil has a seed line in this world. But God also has a seed line. And we know that Gentiles can be grafted in through the body of Christ if they truly serve God. They cannot be drafted in the flesh, but in the spirit they can be drafted through the body of Christ. So that prophecy directly talks about the scattered sheep of Israel, those that were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, according to the Deuteronomy 28:68 prophecy. So now that you know who are the true children of Israel, which are those Hebrew slaves that were scattered across the nations because they disobeyed, and slave ships, of course, because the only event that you can easily relate to the Deuteronomy 28:68 prophecy is the transatlantic slave trade, and that's something you cannot deny, whether you like it or not. It is the prophecy of Moses that the descendants of the children of Israel would go into captivity and would be scattered across the nations, and they would lose their identity. They would forget who they were, and which is exactly what happened to the Negroes, so-called Negroes that or the slave descendants that are still scattered everywhere. Caribbeans, America, South America, Europe, everywhere where we were scattered, we all shared something in common. We completely forgot about our identity. We were always hated by our nations. But I already made a video about that, so I'm not going to go into details. So, just going back to the fact that understanding how the return of Christ is also receiving this knowledge of who true Israel is. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. The Word of God is the Word of God. Verse 31, and shall know that I am Elohim their God, for I will give them a heart to hear and a ear to hear. Okay? So, meaning the awakening. They will know who they are in the last days, which is exactly what's slowly happening right now. And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. Okay, so the rest I'm not going to read, but it's important for people to understand the true identity of Israel. And like I said, the book of 2nd Esdras talked about the real version of course, the gathering that's going to happen. Like the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 12, talks about the dispersed of Judah being gathered from the nations. And the elect, which are all the Gentiles also, will be part. The Gentiles that will truly decide to serve God. They all will also be brought to the New Jerusalem. Like the book of Revelation talks about the gathering of the 12 tribes. And each door will have... Each tribe will be sealed. The 144,000 of the tribes will be sealed. And a great multitude of people of all nations, of all tribes, meaning the Gentiles, that will receive salvation through accepting God's people and the truth. So, if you think that, tribulation will happen in the future, well, believe me, tribulation has just started. And it has actually been happening for many years already. It's just that the appointed time for tribulation to really start spreading across the world like wildfire is currently happening right now. Just look at what's happening to Europe right now, and the United States is the next target. Especially how I see this government is being divided right now and so chaotic. So the United States is probably going to be one of the last countries that will start really being hit by a tribulation, because I think, the plagues of Egypt is going to fall hard on this nation. And not just in the United States, but across the world. Because of what? Because the awakening of Judah. Because the fact that those among the descendants of Jacob that are scattered around the world, that will slowly come back to the truth of knowing who they are, is going to really accelerate Bible prophecy. It's going to wreak havoc in the earth. And I'm telling you, at a certain point, there are many groups of people, even some governments, that are going to want to destroy the seed of Jacob once that truth will come out through the Holy Spirit. Many of the seed of Jacob will be persecuted. Even among you Gentiles that will follow Christ and accept that truth, many will be persecuted also. So it's important for us to know that there is no secret rapture. It's man-made doctrines. And the reason why they took all these books out of the Bible, it's for that reason. It was to push their agenda. But, knowledge is rapidly increasing in these last days, and there's nothing the devil can do to stop this, this awakening. So, God is faithful, and He has never changed. I'm always encouraging you to to serve Him with all your heart. And to my dispersed family out there, be strong and know that the Most High has not forgotten us, and the covenant that He has made with our fathers has never changed. Leave religion. Come out of the midst of her. Come out of her. Come out of those religious institutions. Come back to God, my people. And also to all you, my brothers and sisters out there, to all my Gentiles family out there, I'm asking you to stay strong and to see that truth and to accept that truth. And I know that many of you will not. That's why many of you will be judged. Even among my people, many of the seed of Jacob, many of them will want to stay in their spiritual slumber, and they will be judged as well. So, it's important. It's important for everybody to know these informations, especially in these last days. It's very important for us to know that truth. So with that, I'll say God bless and shalom.